So a couple quick notes about this video. I'm trying to step up my video game here, obviously. This is my first time shooting in this overhead camera rig. There's a lot for me to learn here. I don't currently have a microphone, so I'm using the iPhone audio for this. Apologies for the echo and etc. from this. But let's dive into the video. So this is going to be the second video in a series on the IMSAI 8080 new old stock kit I acquired. This particular bag is for the CPA, or the control panel. Control panel on an IMSAI is what you see when you look at the machine. It's got the red and blue switches, the white graphics, and the LEDs. It's that very pretty front panel on the machine that really distinguishes it, I think, from other S100 machines of the era. This is, like I said, the particular part bag for that CPA. It's never been opened. This bag was most likely sealed up in 1976, as it looks like the kit was sold in late 76. I think the machine was introduced in 75, so this is somewhat later in the life of the sales of the machine. Some people have expressed that I should keep the machine pristine, not open these bags, keep everything as it was when it was shipped. Others have leaned towards build it. It was meant to be built, and I'm still kind of in the space in between. I want to build it. At the same time, I don't want to take like the original PCBs that we'll look at in a future video and assemble on them, because once they're assembled, they're assembled. They're never the pristine original. This bag is most interesting to me because of the switches in it, the red and blue switches. I want to get a closer look at those, and of course it's full of LEDs and capacitors and heat sinks and other stuff the CPA needs. So with all of that said, I can see there's an inner bag. I believe there's an inner bag inside of this outer bag. It's been somewhat sealed right here. I'm going to go ahead, I hate to say it, boy, I'm back and forth on this constantly, and I'm going to go ahead and open this bag up. I want to get pictures and scans of the bill of materials. Well, we're committed. I've started cutting. We have successfully trimmed the top off that bag. Let me get this out of the way, and we'll pull out the bag of switches first. Oh, those are really pretty. Again, that red and blue set of various toggle switches and center off switches, etc., that make up the front panel. We've of course got the bill of materials, and wrapped up in the middle of it is the logic for the CPA. So there is the original logic supplied in this kit. Let me see if I can pull some date codes off of this. 651, so 51st week of 1976, which really means this kit was probably, wow, that's later than I would have thought for most of these ships. I wonder how quick between packaging and shipping this was. Like I said, it looked to me like this machine was probably sold around Christmas. 33 week of 76, 26th week of 76, 27th week of 76. So the latest date codes I really see are this 51st week of 76 for the 74 107s. So these quite potentially arrived at the factory and were packaged within a day or two. You know, we'll never know for sure. There's some other bags of components here. There are the LEDs. Again, these are new old stock original LEDs. These differ a little bit from modern LEDs. I think the package size is slightly smaller, and we'll take a closer look at these. These don't have the wider part on the legs that most modern LEDs do. Well, that means these will sit flush on the CPA panel as is. Newer LEDs typically won't, because that wider part on the leg doesn't fit through the vias on the board. We've of course got some solder, a bunch of disc capacitors. These are probably going to be all 104Ks. I see 0.1 and 788. I don't know what the number is, but those are 0.1 ceramic spiking capacitors. There's a couple of blue tantalums in here. There's some other small disc capacitors that probably have to do with timing and one-shots, and I'm pretty confident the 3-pin part here with the gold on it is the 7805 voltage regulator. I partly say this because there's a heat sink for it sitting here with its mounting hardware. There's a a star washer, or lock washer, and the hardware to mount it. There's an 8212 here, which is a 8-bit latch. NEC part number. The date, that doesn't appear to be a date code. It would be the 56th week of something, which obviously doesn't make any sense. No date code on the bottom. The important thing here is the legs are nice and clean, so the anti-static foam hasn't broke down. There's a little bit of it stuck to the legs, which is an indication this foam is starting to break down. This old black foam will break down over time and corrode and dissolve the leads. This part isn't suffering from that, which is nice. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the static dissipative foam just so it's in there. And of course, some little specks of that black foam have made it onto the white surface here. Looks like a bunch of 1/4 watt carbon resistors, most likely. I see 220 ohm, a lot of 220 ohm, and some other values all look to be in really good shape. The leads aren't super corroded, which is nice. I've had other kits where the leads become heavily corroded. The fact that these are sealed in second bags has kept fresh oxygen from getting in. Same thing for the capacitor leads. They are overall pretty shiny and bright. There's of course a bag of mounting hardware, the spacers to put that front panel together, the hex screws that the heads are exposed on the front of the machine that go through and hold it all together. That's nice to see. The BOM here, or parts list, or whatever you want to call it, the paper's started to fade a little bit. CPA kit or assembled. So of course this is the kit, contains, we've seen some of this solder heat sink, a bunch of sheet metal screws, slotted hex head, integrated washer, screws, nuts, bunch of spacers, paddle switches. Boy, the markings here aren't jumping out at me. On, neutral, on. So that's going to be a center off, I believe. I don't know what MFM means here. Make something, make, I don't know. Some of these are pure toggle in that they click up and down. Others, like the single step, are center off, and you can push the switch up or down depending on what you want to do. A bunch of 220 ohm resistors, some others. For each disc caps, there's a 914 Zener diode. Handful of logic. Cable assembly K. Interesting enough, I don't see a cable assembly in any of this. It's separate. I do remember the cable assembly. It's separate from this bag, the PC board, the plastic panels, the brackets. So everything here from the cable down, I believe is in the kit. It's just not packaged in this part. So I will get a good scan of this at some point in the near future, and we'll get it posted. So the thing I want to look at the closest today are these switches. And looking through the bag, the leads on these, where you solder to, do look pretty dark, and that just speaks to, here's one here where the two outside ones are very dark. We'll open the bag up and look at these closer. So these are showing their age just in the oxidization that's appeared on the solder lugs. So in this case, well, let's open the bag. That's what we're here for. Those of you who are screaming, don't, avert your eyes. I'm releasing air from 1976. Let's go ahead and pour them out so we can get a better look at them. Pure toggle. Wow, that feels really nice. Oh, that is just really nice. I can see here stamped in this side, they are C and K switches, which is what I would have expected. There's some markings here that I can't catch in the light well enough to read. I'll try to get up here close. Hopefully you can see. Those three solder lugs aren't bad. The center one's got a little bit of oxidization to it. Whereas this one, well, again, it doesn't look bad once I get it in the better light. So maybe these aren't as corroded as they seemed looking at them through the bag because they are pretty reflective. So these have actually aged really well, I think. I say that and then I immediately pick one up where there's a fair amount of oxidization on this. Flux during soldering, this would probably clean up, but that one's definitely showing some oxidization. It's also a pure toggle. Let's see if we can find one that is center off. Let's see if we can find the power switch here. Here's the power switch. So it doesn't have the paddle. Again, they're dull. There's definitely some oxidization on them. The metal frame that holds the switch is still nice and solid. That switch just feels really clean inside. It's not gummy. It's not sticky. Here is a center off, and I mean by center off is we can connect it down or connect it up and it comes back to center. This would be like run stop, a single step, deposit next, examine next on the front panel, those kind of operations. Wow, these feel really nice. The plastic doesn't feel brittle at all, which is super nice. I was afraid this plastic would have aged over time and become brittle, and it has not. That may speak to this has been stored, not in a back shed or an attic, but stored in a more temperature-controlled manner. We can certainly hope so. Hold a few of these up so you can get a good look at them. Hopefully the camera's focusing here. I'm going to stand up. Hopefully it won't cause too much vibration. Let's try to get some focus. Wow, it just looks super nice. Good, the camera followed the focus back down. So as I started in the video, this is a new camera rig. I'm currently using an iPhone without a microphone, so it's just a built-in microphone on the iPhone. At least we're getting good focus on this. Wow. So I can see here it's on is how it's marked. Part number, 120 volt AC, either 5 amp or 0.5 amp, I can't tell. Looks like 2.5 amp at 250 or 5 amp at 120. CK7101, made in USA. Listen to how positive that switching is on the toggles. That is really satisfying. Oh, that is satisfying. That's very nice. Look for another center off. This won't click as well or as loud. Just because it's not fighting as much spring tension. Very nice. So, I guess this is going to be a relatively short video. I'm not going to unbag all these other bags of parts. I'm trying to keep the reflections off here so you can get a better look. It's unclear to me whether I'll actually use these parts during assembly of potentially a clone front panel or not. I may keep these in the bags pristine. The switches are hard to find, if not impossible to find. So I may end up reusing these original switches. There is a potential source for other switches that may work to my favor or may not. Time will tell. The 8212D, like I said, the 8-bit latch. NEC part. Trying to keep the reflections off a handful of logic here. We can see the 74 107s I mentioned earlier, if I can get it to focus. Can't tell if it's focusing well or not. National Semiconductor parts. Signetics parts, it looks like. TI parts with the TI logo on them. Another NSC part. More Signetics, I believe. Just typical. It's just a mix of whatever vendor they could get the parts from, and they were probably chasing, price as well. So really, there it is. Let's see if we can get focus here on this sheet, and we'll move through it kind of slowly, just so you can see inventory. And you know, what should be in the bag, and then the external parts and that cable assembly K down. So this is a relatively short video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a like. Channel subscription is appreciated as well. Not much else to say here, so I hope to see you in a future video.